Call the work session to order.
Right.
Approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Very good.
So the issue to start off with is we went through the change in the contract for those maintain flood buyout properties. We're getting a lot of pushback from insurance companies, not the homeowners, but it's the insurance companies that are not willing to add it to their homeowner policy of those that do the maintenance, so that it isn't costing the residents anything, so they don't want to pay anything extra. But from what we've got word from Farmers Insurance and State Farm, I think it was, that they won't cover anything that the homeowner doesn't own. Since the homeowner doesn't own that property, they may maintain it, but if they don't have possession of it, they will not cover it. And from what I understand, I'm sorry, it was American Family, not Farmers. And from what I understand from American Family, they won't cover it at all, no matter unless somebody wants to. I'm not even sure if somebody wants to pay for it, if they would do that. I guess it would. Alderman Eidman and I talked about if it's like leasing a building from somebody, you can get insurance for that.
Yeah. Is it the agent or is it the company?
Right. But that's the kind of pushback we're getting on this. So.
The agents don't want to do the work.
Yeah.
I know one of the properties years ago, the guy decided to take over maintenance of the property directly behind his house. In exchange, he could park his RV on it. What's the city's liability should a sinkhole or something open up and swallow his RV? Or something like that? I mean, is that why you were looking to have?
Yeah, why were you looking to have this changes?
This is a recommendation from our attorney because it protects the city, saying that you have coverage for those properties in case something happens. It wouldn't be full coverage because we decided not to do that. But we pay for coverage on those properties anyway. They're listed as part of our properties. So the issue was just trying to transfer some of that liability, and I think you have insurance companies that are kicking it back saying, great, you guys keep it, we don't want it. Even though we have not had any incidents that I have known about on any of these properties, it was you want to cover yourself by including that language and by requiring that type of coverage to protect the city. So what? Yes, we would be responsible. Act of God, though, if it's a sinkhole, that would probably be act of God. Who's responsible? It's the same as heavy rains. I mean, you really don't have any. You probably can put in a claim, but you may not get that claim paid.
Is there any way that we could put verbiage into these contracts, if you will, with the people who have the buyout property, that they take all responsibility? Or
I don't think you can take all responsibility. What I can look at doing is...
You won't come back to the city if your RV goes through a sinkhole?
So what I've highlighted in this contract is we look at that language and see if we want to modify that. How far do you want us to modify it? I mean, we could eliminate that language totally, because we still have in there, to the fullest extent permitted by law, caretaker shall indemnify the city for anything that occurs. So you still have that part of the contract that keeps you protected, but you don't have any financial coverage if something happens. What I'm trying not to do is, I don't want to go and start cutting grass in more spots when I'm trying to cut back on grass cutting in other spots.
Okay, so let's say I live down there and I'm gonna take over responsibility of the property directly behind my house. I'm mowing it and all that stuff. Does that give me sole use of that property, or does that property still kind of act like a city park that the neighborhood kids can still get together and play football on it or anything?
No, because you're paying to lease that, so that's your property to do with as allowed by the flood buyout program.
Gotcha.
Which no buildings, no permanent buildings, that kind of stuff.
Structures.
Right. So you can put your garden in, you can use it as an open space, but yeah, you can.
So they could, okay, so they have the authority to restrict normal taxpayers from city property?
Right.
Right.
Okay, gotcha.
Right. That's why you do this type of lease.
Okay. I go ahead and delete the highlighted part if that cleans it up, and go with the rest of it.
I agree, I want people to,
Me too.
the property's there, let them, and they're taking care of it, let them enjoy it.
And they've been doing it for years and
Yeah,
years and
I mean,
years and years
We've hadn't had any problems.
and years and years.
Yeah.
Abby, do we have any kind of idea on the cost of the insurance that we're paying
It's a
for those
blanket,
properties?
it's a blanket coverage, no, I don't have a cost per lot, it would just be blanket, we're paying it anyway, we would wanna keep it covered, even though we're letting it be leased, it's still, we want to be covered somewhere.
Yeah,
Pay for it all anyway, right?
You know, that's a public
And
service
maintain
we're
it and-
providing to the public in return for them mowing the property, so I mean, if the insurance company, and I understand the key word here is own. You know, if you don't own it, yeah, and I've been involved in some leases before, but I could insure that property, but I had to have a separate, because it was not owned, and I just leased it, I had to provide my own insurance,
I do that all the time.
so I,
Okay, we'll look into that, I'll talk
Good
to,
point, Bob.
talk to Mark, see what we can, how we can wordsmith it.
Thank you, sir.
Sounds good.
All right, next up is, we had the group come in last time. John Carroll is here on our Zoom call. Is Sam Cabot and Bob Mueller. I don't have video. They want to come on in?
Okay.
Can you see me?
Now again.
Yeah.
Hey, Bob.
Bob?
Yep. So what we need to do is budget for a few items. One is the signs that we talked about at the last meeting. We have to get signs for if we rename the street, looking at the different concrete kiosk pads that you're gonna be installing. Those will be for the upright signs that, are descriptions of recreational, educational type stuff that's up there.
And that's gonna be provided by the Fish and Wildlife.
Wildlife, Fish and Wildlife.
We're just putting the bases in.
All right.
But we also have to approve the names and all that that are associated with the map that I gave you. We also have the parking lot, which will be done by Levy District 3. So we're figuring about $5,000 to work that over to make it level. It'll still be rock limestone, but it will be more of a parking area like you have here at City Hall rather than what's there now, which is, just hasn't been cleaned up. Figuring just some incidentals of $100 for the signs and whatever. Surveying, because we did get the okay from the Joint Levy Commission to convey property from Levy District 3 to Fish and Wildlife when that happens, which won't be until next year, but we need to look at the surveying part of it and get that done. Our estimate is between $4,000 to $5,000, but there will also be plans that will need to be drawn and other instruments that will be included with that that'll cost up to another $1,000. So I want to make sure we cover it. And then other miscellaneous, more plats, maps, whatever that we need to get for Fish and Wildlife. Because we'll be working with their surveyor. We may actually save money in this, but just in case we don't, they need other things, because they are very particular. They'll be doing their own surveys besides us just surveying a piece of property off. But I wanted to put in $1,500 to cover whatever would come up from that. Also the legal part of it, so when we get the new plan or new plat back, everything's drafted correctly, language looks good. So we can separate that 70 acres. So our total to amend the budget, which we will bring to you on the 10th, would be to add $15,000 to that line item, which we already have $65,000 budgeted for the retaining wall that we're working on. So that would give us a total of $80,000 in that line item, if approved by the board. And so I'm looking at kind of a couple of things. Are you willing to approve this amount of money for us to put into our budget to pull out of capital projects, which has $1.8 million in it now, so you're taking 15,000 more of that out. And then we also need to look at approving the naming that we have up there so the signs can be made. So I think you guys had pulled out everything. I think you all had pulled out everything that had to do with the those and
On
policies.
levy trail,
Yeah. Yeah, so.
yeah, no, based on the discussion at the last meeting, we just left that unnamed as the levy trail. If the board would like to name it later on, all we have to do is change one sign, very small sign, I think it's like 18 by 24 inches. So in order to move this project forward, we just took the naming of that levy trail off.
Okay. So you're still looking at Stormy Crawford Way, which would be Division Street, the Vern Bowman Trail, and Lake Audubon.
Yeah, I like it, I think that's outstanding.
Yeah.
Yeah.